In the mid-19th century, anywhere from 10,000 to 30,000 orphan children lived in New York City. Charles Brace had a solution. Send these orphans by train to small towns across America and put them up for adoption. Over the course of 75 years, the orphan trains brought more than 200,000 abandoned children to new homes. In 1848, Charles Loring Brace arrived in New York on a mission to aid New York's poor immigrant population. After graduating divinity school, Reverend Brace worked at the 5 Points Mission, a charitable organization in one of the city's poorest neighborhoods that also became a home for its orphan children. In 1853, Brace founded the Children's Aid Society, an organization still active today. New York had as many as 30,000 orphans, almost 6% of the entire population of the city. But at the time, the label of orphan didn't just apply to the parentless. Some families just couldn't take care of their children in the harsh conditions of New York's slums. Many of these orphans were children of recent immigrants who, if they could find jobs, were forced to take dangerous, low-paying work. Dying on the job was not uncommon. Dying at home was also not uncommon. These immigrants mostly lived in cramped, unsanitary tenements where disease easily spread. Their children could be orphaned if one parent died and the other couldn't care for them. Sometimes both living parents gave up their children simply because they didn't have the resources to ensure their survival. Reverend Brace recognized that the best chance for those orphaned was not in the asylums and juvenile prisons where they were normally sent, but with actual families. So, under the Children's Aid Society, he hatched a plan. Orphaned, homeless children at least 6 years old, which was considered working age, would be placed on trains heading out to America's farmlands. The hope was that they would be adopted by new families and grow up in a more peaceful, rural setting, away from the dangers of the city. The first orphan train left in 1854, 42 children bound for apple-picking country in Michigan. All orphan trains were supervised by a Western agent who was responsible for picking the small towns where the children had the best chance of being adopted. The agent would bombard the town with advertising banners and pamphlets announcing the orphans' arrival and their availability for adoption. On the day the orphans arrived, interested families would gather at the town hall, courthouse, or theater to inspect the potential adoptees. Children were placed on a stage or elevated platform, physically put up for adoption. They were poked and prodded, examined thoroughly for their health and physical capabilities. Once potential parents made their selections and the selection committee of prominent townsfolk approved, the orphans were handed over. Families were only allowed to take one child, so any siblings traveling together would almost always become separated. Any children left over would move on to the next town. In their new homes, the freshly adopted orphans were encouraged to forget their past lives in New York completely, and in some cases, adopt the religious beliefs of their new families. Most learned farming skills, but some families treated their new children more as indentured servants, sometimes accompanied by abuse, which often went unchecked by the Children's Aid Society. So, what happened to these orphan train children? Like their childhoods, their adulthoods varied. The program produced many successes, including 2 future governors who traveled on the same orphan train. But the notorious outlaw Billy the Kid also rode west on an orphan train. In 1910, a survey concluded that 87% of the orphans had done well, although the term done well was not clearly defined. The orphan train ceased operating in the 1920s as federal, local, and state governments enacted new child labor laws and assumed control for the care of orphan children. But the work of Charles Brace and the Children's Aid Society lives on. The program helped lay the groundwork for America's modern foster care system, tasked with caring for more than 400,000 children today.